Afternoon.
Afternoon. How are you?
I'm okay, thank you.
You never thought you'd see me?
Oh, summer's arrived, eh?
Family well?
Family good, very good. Good, thanks. Good. You what? Yes, good. Good, thank you.
Afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Chris, first of all, any injury updates for us at all on the squad?
No, the two that will miss out that are of course still here and not away. Bernardo will miss out again, and Izquierdo. Basuma, who missed last week's game against Liverpool, will know probably tomorrow. If he trains tomorrow, then he has a chance of being involved. If he doesn't train, then he'll miss the weekend as well.
Let's look ahead to the Manchester United game. Very different proposition to the United side you faced earlier in the season?
I think so. Having watched their games, the most recent games, and was there at Tottenham last weekend, where I thought first half they were very good, and probably Spurs were better second half and should have got something from the game. But I thought they were very good, and seeing their recent games, they're playing a way that allows for the quality in their team, the pace they've got in the side. They look like they can score goals. They're aggressive in the way that they're pressing. So at this moment, I think they're in really good form, which makes it, of course, a more difficult task for us.
What do you make of what Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's done there?
Well, I think you can only assess, of course, from the time that he took over, and you certainly don't like to speak about anything in the past or beyond that. And I think the results speak for themselves, and what they have been able to do, they have been able to win games, look like scoring goals, playing really well. So I think probably any manager coming in after, of course, Mourinho, I think I don't think they could have expected any more than anybody that would have come in, because the results and the performances indicate that.
Well, looking back, what do you think that result back at the Amex did for your season so far?
Well, we had two very, very good results, of course, at the Amex. One was towards the end of last season, which secured our status in the division, and the one this season kick-started our season after a very poor performance at Watford. So both very significant results. I think because of the timing of the results, but of course, playing against one of the best teams in the country and getting that type of result, can't do anything but lift you as a team.
What do you make of your away performances this season, generally, Chris? Do you feel you're not always getting the rewards that maybe the performances deserve?
I think the performances are better, and it's what you'll always look for is a performance, and enough good performances will get you enough good results. So have the results been as good as what we would want? No, they're not. Have the performances? Yes. I mean, we can only assess that on what we had last season and the challenges we had away from home last season. I think we're better away from home than what we were last season, but ultimately it's about getting as many points as possible, and still for our level of club, points away from home are going to be more difficult, particularly when you go into the likes of Old Trafford.
Tell us about the transfers, Chris. Any news on ins or outs for us?
No, I think the only out would be on loan. I don't know if it's been confirmed yet, but Sutner will go out on loan. Well, I think I'll probably wait, but there's a chance.
I won't send you one. You can tell.
Yeah, well, yeah, I'm sure you won't. But I think from where we are at the moment, the likelihood is he'll go out on loan, and that's probably all I see. Scalotto is another one that possibly will go out on loan. As regards anybody coming in at this moment, I don't see anybody coming in, and certainly don't see anybody else going out.
There's been a lot of talk about Spygate this week. What's your take on it in terms of the broken any laws? Is it unethical?
Well, it's obviously been very much in news the last few days, and there will be lots of opinions. My opinion is it's not something that I've ever done, and I don't think it's right. But everybody will think different, and everybody will have their own views on it. Probably the most important factors are, one, of course, what the coach has said himself. There was, of course, a statement that came out from Leeds United, and I suppose those that have been at the other end of it, the individual clubs that have been at the other end of it, they'll be the important views. But what has happened is as far as I know, he hasn't broken any rules or any laws, and I say them decisions on how far you want to take things will always be the individual decisions, and there will be lots of managers that think in different ways.
Is it just a case of it's just not in the spirit of the game?
I think that would be the question. I think probably from myself and a coach's point of view is that what we're having been brought up through the system here. You're actually playing against a lot of managers. I know it's changed and a lot of the dynamics have changed, but you're playing against lots of teams and coaches and assistant coaches that quite well. And we would still look to see a coach or a manager after a game. So I think probably that's what we've always had. But of course the dynamics can change. And that will always be down to the individual. I mean, as I said, from my point of view, it's not something that I've done, and I still don't think it's right. But if you're not breaking any rules, then that's an individual decision.
In your experience, is this maybe more prevalent than we thought, or do you think this is the tip of the iceberg? What do you think is
No, I think it's certainly gone on. And I suppose by the press conference yesterday, it's gone on, of course, in this individual case, a lot this season. But I think in the past, I don't think it's anything new. I think, but it would have been certainly more sporadic, I think. So I suppose the reason why it's such big news at the moment is because there would have been a lot of people that wouldn't have felt or thought it's something that went on.
Chris, just on United, David De Gea obviously had a game that stood out. Where does he rank in terms of Premier League goalkeepers for you?
He's right up there, but I think we knew that over the last few seasons. I think we also knew that when he went there, he still had work to do. He had to get used to the English game and the physicality of the English game. But I think if you spoke to most people in the game, particularly ex-goalkeepers or goalkeeping coaches, they would rank him as one of the best goalkeepers in the world. So when he has a performance like he did last week, it's not. It's not a big surprise because he is the type of goalkeeper that can pull out them type of saves.
Your defence might be busy, might not be. Duncan, Duffy, have they got better as the season has gone on as a partnership, do you think?
Well, whether they've got better or not, I mean, we rate them very highly, and they work very, very well together, and I think it helps that they've played a lot of games together, and the confidence of sort of coming through the championship and the amount of games that we would have played, and I think has helped their relationship. And if we have a good partnership at centre half, then it allows us to have a good focal point in any sort of defensive work that we want to do. But they're two centre halves that I expect to be quite busy on Saturday, and we will certainly need a performance from both of them.
Is bravery one of the qualities you need to face one of the top six away from home?
Yes, I think bravery, of course the normal one's quality. Certainly you'll need that little bit of luck, a little bit of fortune, sometimes things to go your way and decisions to go your way, but ultimately you have to play well enough, and that can be by allowing yourself to play a way that's a little bit open and in areas to match them. But when you're playing up against a team that are in such good form, you know that as a team you're going to have to defend well, you know you're going to have a good structure, but you're also going to have to play well on the ball and give yourself chances to win the game. And that has to be a starting point.
4-3-3 seems to be working well for you. How does it work for you as a manager, 4-3-3? How is it meant to work?
Well, it's meant to work exactly the same as any other formation. You know, it's whichever formation you choose to play. It's ultimately about what suits the team the best, what suits the individual players the best. You know, where we've got our best results. Tactically against any opposition. I think in our case, what's the change, and certainly doesn't mean that we will always play that way, but I think it's given us another option. It allows us, in whichever way you look at it, to have 3 forward players, and it has allowed us to get Lacardia in the team as a centre forward play and a left of a 3. Gives us that extra player in the middle of the park, and if they are, you know, the right type of players, it means that hopefully you can have, you know, a bit more possession of the ball than perhaps what you'd have had before. But it's but whichever formation it is, you have to make it work, and lots of the fundamentals are exactly the same.
Can you just tell us about Max Sanders, a player that not many people know about, but how much are you looking forward to seeing him integrate into the first team?
Well, he was with us a fair bit last season. Picked up an injury earlier in the season, which knocked him back a little bit. But he's a midfield player that we rate highly here. Good on the ball, possession works hard, and has had a really good progress through our academy and mostly through our 23s last season. And you know, he's one of a few players at under 23 level that really progressed in what was a very good season for the 23. So it's important for us. You know, ultimately what we want to be able to do is you know, produce players here through our system, and any ones that we can produce through the system that work, you know, in our first team or in our first team squad, I think is a major plus for the club.
And just finally, how much have you been following the Asian Cup? Batch obviously played the other day. Pleased to see him back involved? Yes.
I mean, I think, you know, from a selfish point of view, we would want our 2 players there back as quick as possible. But also you want them to do well. That's, you know, the other side. And probably more Yakambash, because he hadn't played for a little while before he went. He went having just got through an injury, so the games, I think, will do him well, and I think ultimately that will be good for us. Matty's a little bit different because obviously he's been playing regular for us. So yes, we've been watching it very closely.
Chris, I said this morning that I thought that you were a very underrated manager, and your team a pretty underrated team. How happy are you that you do seem to go under the radar, and, you know, nobody talks about you in terms of going down? You know, you seem to just be able to plot through a season without any great headlines.
Well, I think it's something that suits us, because ultimately all we can do is try and put in the best performances we can. We've continually said that in our progress, the most important thing for us is to have a bigger gap as we can between us and the bottom 3. And but I think it's normal. You know, I think if you're looking at, you know, what we see in the game now, and, you know, the heights of the Premier League, that, you know, the top teams, you know, there's always going to be more focus on the top teams, you know, whether they're doing well or whether they're not done, and sometimes there's more focus on them when they're not doing so well. So I think just to creep under that radar suits us, because we know we've still got an awful lot of work to do.
We saw again VAR in action last night in the FA Cup, and I don't know, I'm not sure I'm a fan of it or not. I'm not sure if you're a fan of it or not. But one thing we're going to have next season with VAR is the fact that if goals are scored, you're not going to be able to jump up and celebrate, be it as a fan or as a player or as a manager, because you've got to wait for the goal to be verified. Do you think that it's going to be good for our game?
Well, I think that will be one of the negatives of VAR. I mean, from a personal point of view, I'm not a big fan, and probably a little bit old-fashioned that way. But what I do completely understand is that it's going to come in, and it will get more decisions right than wrong. But there are aspects around it, like what we've just spoke about, having to wait. What will happen, I have no doubts that, when it's in full time, is that you will get players insisting to referees to look at VAR for perhaps decisions that they wouldn't have, surrounding the referees, having to wait. But I think these are the negatives at the moment that I think will improve. So ultimately, I think it will get far more good decisions and ultimately probably be good for our game. But as I've said, I'm not the biggest fan, but I understand that it has to come in.
And last one from me, I'm sure you wouldn't mind if I came and watched your team train every day of the week. I'm pretty certain you'd invite me in. But if I wanted to look through a bush and watch them train, as you said, you're not happy with that, but are there any rules that can be brought in to stop it?
That I don't know. I think what you are, of course, going to get now is that you are going to get clubs making sure that they are checking the surrounding areas and of course making sure that nobody is watching the training. I mean, some training grounds would be fairly open. I don't think so much these days, but of course, going back a good few years ago, we'd have had more open days where supporters could watch the training. I think the question marks are always about the days and what anybody is going to watch. What anybody is going to watch, really, the difficulties are when they're watching things like set plays and some tactical work. So I certainly see that's changing. But you are right. At the moment, there are no rules against it. It is something that I'm quite sure that other managers have done in the past. But I think certainly with the hype at the moment, that will change.
Chris, just on the January transfer window, you've always said that it's going to be minimal business for the club this January. What do you make of the general picture? I mean, there's not really been many deals done at all in the Premier League.
No, and I think that would be down to I think a little change in mentality. And I know that there have been some very good January signings, but I think most clubs would look at it and think that when you're buying in January, you're not in as good a position as when you're buying in the summer, when you, of course, your planning can be a little bit different, bringing in a player in the summer, and of course you've got the whole of that pre-season to get them up to speed, or at least a part of that pre-season to get them up to speed. And of course, what can happen in January, particularly if you don't get the players that you want, it can be a little bit of a panic buy. And of course, no clubs really want to be in that position. So if there is that change, I think that would be some part towards that. We of course haven't gone into the last week yet, and I certainly expect to see some business in the last week.
That's exactly what I was going to come on to. I mean, in terms of you don't seem to have to make any panic buys because you're quite happy with where you are. But could you do some business in that late stage if things come to you? Yes. I wouldn't say no. To something that I think would be good for us as a club. I don't expect it to happen. I must admit, we are happy with where we are with the players that we have at the moment and the squad that we've got. But you never know. You might pick up an injury that you think is going to be longer than what you thought, and of course, come the end of January, that's it. You can't bring anybody in, of course, until the summer. So I wouldn't say absolutely no, but probably to say, if you're asking me my opinion, then I don't think that would be the case.